The year was 2478, and humanity had finally stepped into the Orion expanse. Ships of strange shapes and unimaginable designs floated among the stars. And every mission into this region was a gamble. Lieutenant Kieran Arlo had trained for this moment his entire life. He was a diplomat, yes, but in the expanse, being human meant being unpredictable, which sometimes helped more than protocol ever could. Kieran sat in the observation deck of the starship Endeavour, staring at the endless black of space. Stars glittered like shards of crystal. And somewhere, far ahead, lay the Vorkari homeworld. The Vorkari were one of the most feared civilizations in known space. Their skin was iridescent, their limbs long and jointed, and their eyes, multifaceted like jewels, could read the slightest flicker of emotion. Their reputation was harsh. They respected strength, cunning, and honesty, but they despised hesitation or deceit. Kieran adjusted his uniform and sighed. He had been trained in diplomacy, strategy, and xenolinguistics, but nothing could truly prepare him for the first moment of contact. His friend Leah leaned against the railing, her fingers tapping nervously on the metallic surface. She wasn't trained as a diplomat, but she had been along to observe, and more importantly, to keep Kieran grounded. "I can't believe we're really here," Leah whispered. "All those simulations, all the protocols, nothing can compare to actually seeing them." Kieran smiled faintly. "Yeah, I just hope we don't make the kind of mistake that gets us vaporized." Before Leah could respond, a small figure approached from the side. Nova, Leah's younger sister, was unlike anyone Kieran had met. Brilliant, confident, and fearless, she was humanity's top xenolinguist. At only 28, she had already translated half a dozen alien languages and had the uncanny ability to read alien body language as if it were human. She didn't just understand words, she understood intent. Nova's presence always seemed to cut through tension like a knife. She stopped beside Kieran and Leah, eyes scanning the star-filled viewport. "You're overthinking," she said softly. "The Vorkari can feel hesitation. Trust me, you're thinking too much." Kieran raised an eyebrow. "And what do you suggest we do, exactly?" Nova grinned. "Say what you mean what you say, and don't back down. They respect courage." Leah chuckled nervously. "You make it sound easy." "It's not easy," Nova admitted. "It's human." The ship's intercom buzzed. "Lieutenant Arlo, we are approaching Vorkari orbital station. Prepare for docking." Kieran nodded, his stomach tightened. Humanity had been careful in its expansion into space. Most alien civilizations ignored them. Some laughed at them, and a few outright tried to wipe them out. But the Orion expanse was different. This was a region where humans were small, fragile, and untested. Yet, humans had a trait many aliens underestimated: adaptability. Where aliens often relied on rigid rules, humans improvised. Where aliens feared risk, humans sometimes thrived on it. And Nova was the perfect embodiment of that trait. The docking sequence was tense. The Vorkari station was massive. A lattice of glowing metal beams and energy shields. Its design was elegant yet intimidating, with spiraling towers and platforms that seemed to float in impossible configurations. When the docking clamps finally engaged, the station trembled slightly. Kieran exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Stay calm," Nova whispered, though her own eyes shone with excitement. "This is just the beginning." Once aboard the station, the human delegation was escorted through long corridors lined with iridescent panels. The Vorkari did not speak English, or any human tongue, but their body language was precise, almost ritualistic. Every gesture had meaning, and Nova interpreted them with quiet confidence. Finally, they arrived at the Grand Chamber, where the Vorkari Council waited. 12 figures, taller than any human, loomed before them. Their bodies shimmered with metallic hues, and their faces, though vaguely humanoid, were alien in every detail. The chamber was filled with a low hum, as if the station itself were alive. Kieran stepped forward, offering the standard diplomatic greeting. The Vorkari responded with a series of synchronized gestures, their many-faceted eyes studying him. Nova moved slightly closer to Kieran, reading the subtle shifts in their posture. "They're tense," she whispered, "like predators assessing prey. But they're also curious." A silence fell. Every human present felt a pressure that was almost physical. Kieran opened his mouth to speak again, but Nova moved ahead, stepping closer to the council. Then she said the words that shocked everyone. "Stop faking like you don't want this too." The chamber went still. Kieran froze. Leah gasped softly, and even the Vorkari seemed momentarily confused. Nova's voice was calm, almost gentle, but the words carried an unmistakable confidence. The eldest Vorkari counselor tilted his head, multiple eyes shifting independently. There was a long pause, and then, surprisingly, a ripple of laughter, not loud or boisterous, but a sound of recognition and amusement. The tension eased. "What did you just say?" Kieran whispered, half in awe, half in disbelief. Nova shrugged, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I said the truth. They respect honesty and courage. Hesitation would have made them doubt us." The council conversed among themselves, their language strange and musical. Nova listened, nodding slightly, and then translated their words. "They say, they admire our directness. They've never had humans confront them like this. It's unusual." Kieran couldn't help smiling. "Unusual, yes. But will it work?" Nova glanced at him. It already did. Over the next few hours, the humans and the Vorkari exchanged ideas, demands, and protocols. Kieran noticed how differently the humans approached each problem compared to the Vorkari. Where the aliens relied on tradition and strict procedures, humans improvised. Where they feared failure, humans experimented. And every time an obstacle arose, Nova seemed to know exactly what to say or do to turn it in humanity's favor. At one point, the Vorkari tested them with a puzzle. A holographic simulation that required coordination and problem-solving under pressure. Humans were expected to fail, as no alien had ever completed it. Kieran glanced at Nova, who merely smiled. "Trust me," she said. They approached the puzzle differently than expected. Kieran noticed patterns the Vorkari hadn't considered. Leah suggested angles that were unconventional, and Nova directed them with calm precision. Slowly, the pieces fell into place. By the time the simulation ended, the humans had not only completed the challenge, they had done so faster than any alien could anticipate. The council observed in silence. Then, one of the Vorkari counselors spoke in slow, deliberate tones. Nova translating, "You, humans, are audacious. You do not fear, and you do not lie. That is unexpected." Kieran felt a swell of pride. Audacious. Unexpected. That was humanity in a nutshell. As the humans prepared to leave the chamber, Nova leaned toward Kieran and whispered, "Remember this. They will respect us if we act like we belong here. Not because we're strong, but because we refuse to be weak." Kieran nodded, understanding. Humanity had always survived by refusing to give up, by challenging the odds, and by surprising those who doubted them. In the Orion expanse, that trait would be their greatest weapon. As the delegation left the chamber, Kieran looked back once more at the Vorkari Council, who regarded them with a mix of curiosity, amusement, and perhaps a hint of respect. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, conflicts, and dangers unlike anything humans had faced. But for the first time, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a spark of true confidence. Nova walked beside him, her eyes shining with that familiar fire. "This is just the start," she said. And Kieran knew she was right. Humanity was here, not to ask permission, not to be small, but to show the galaxy exactly what it meant to be human. The Endeavour floated quietly in orbit above the Vorkari homeworld. Outside the viewports, swirling clouds of pale blue and silver reflected the sun in a way that made the planet seem alive. Kieran stood near the railing, staring down at the world below. He had thought he understood what it meant to be a diplomat, but nothing could have prepared him for the tests the Vorkari were about to impose. "Lieutenant," Nova said, approaching him with a small tablet in her hands. "They've sent instructions for the next phase. It's complicated." Kieran turned to her. "Complicated? I thought we were done with their first test." Nova smirked. "Oh, no. That was just a warm-up. This is the real challenge. They want us to retrieve a lost artifact from the asteroid labyrinth. If we succeed, they'll officially recognize humans as worthy of negotiation." Leah, who had been quietly reviewing the instructions, shook her head. "A labyrinth? In space? That sounds dangerous." Kieran felt a tight knot in his stomach. "And exactly how do they expect us to navigate it?" Nova tapped the tablet. "No map. No waypoints. Just a general area and a set of environmental hazards. It's designed to test intelligence, teamwork, and adaptability. Exactly what the Vorkari value." The challenge was intimidating. The asteroid labyrinth was a dense cluster of massive space rocks, floating unpredictably in gravitational currents. The Vorkari called it a maze of living stones because the movement of the asteroids was never fixed. The artifact, a crystalline object said to hold the key to Vorkari history, was somewhere inside. Countless humans had failed in simulations, and no alien had ever attempted it twice. Kieran swallowed hard. "So, they want us to just figure it out?" Nova's grin widened. "Exactly. They expect humans to fail. But we don't fail. Not easily. Anyway." The team suited up and boarded the sleek, modular spacecraft designed for flexibility. Each ship was small, fast, and equipped with adaptive thrusters. Kieran piloted the lead ship, with Nova and Leah on the secondary craft. The asteroid field stretched before them like a frozen storm, jagged rocks spinning slowly, sometimes colliding with muted explosions of dust. "Remember," Nova said, checking the instrument panels, "the labyrinth isn't static. It will change as we move. We have to predict the currents, watch patterns, and stay calm. This isn't just about speed, it's about thinking ahead." The first few minutes were chaotic. Kieran barely avoided a spinning asteroid that could have crushed his ship. Leah shouted directions over the comm, her voice tight with concentration, as Nova calculated trajectories and adjusted the thrusters in real time. "Patterns," Nova muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "They move like water. Slow and fast. But never random. We just have to read it." Kieran watched in amazement as she guided them through the dense field. The Vorkari instructions had given them no exact path, but Nova could sense the rhythm of the labyrinth. "There." She pointed at a narrow gap between two massive asteroids. "Now. Go." Kieran adjusted the controls, heart pounding. The ship squeezed through the opening with millimeters to spare. Behind them, Leah's ship followed, Nova shouting encouragement over the comms. Hours passed, yet they pressed on. The labyrinth shifted constantly, sending obstacles in unexpected directions. Meteoroid showers, magnetic anomalies, and asteroid collisions threatened to throw them off course. Still, the humans adapted. They observed patterns, tested small maneuvers, and corrected mistakes quickly. Where alien simulations relied on rigid logic, humans relied on instinct, creativity, and teamwork. At one point, they reached a particularly dense cluster. Sensors registered unstable gravitation, and debris moved unpredictably. Kieran's hands trembled as he fought to keep the ship steady. Nova's voice cut through the tension. "Kieran, don't fight the currents, use them. Push your thrusters in sync with the motion of the asteroids." He hesitated for a moment, unsure. Then he realized she was right. Instead of struggling against the movement, he adjusted the ship to ride the gravitational flows. Slowly, they glided through the hazard, emerging on the other side with minimal damage. "See?" Nova said, her eyes sparkling. "That's human thinking. Adapt. Improvise. Survive." Even Leah smiled, her fear replaced by awe. "They'll never expect this. They're so used to rigid approaches." Hours turned into the better part of a day. Kieran felt exhaustion settling in. But the sight of the crystalline artifact glimmering inside a partially shielded cavity reinvigorated him. It was beautiful, a perfect prism that seemed to glow with an inner light. "Almost there," Nova said. "But the labyrinth knows we're close. It will test us harder now." And she was right. Asteroids began moving faster, colliding more frequently, creating narrow channels that threatened to trap their ships. One massive rock spun directly toward Kieran's path. He braced for impact. "Trust me," Nova said calmly. "Now." Following her instructions, Kieran executed a maneuver he would never have imagined in a classroom or simulation. He spun the ship around the asteroid, using the momentum of the rotation to sling the craft forward. Behind him, Leah's ship mirrored the maneuver. For a tense moment, they hung between two massive spinning boulders. Then, with a final burst of thrusters, they cleared the cluster. The artifact floated just ahead. Nova guided them into position, ensuring no accidental collision with the protective energy field surrounding it. "Grab it," she said, her voice firm. Kieran extended the robotic arm and carefully retrieved the artifact. It pulsed lightly, as though alive, and Kieran felt a thrill of victory. They had done the impossible. "Artifact secured," Kieran reported, grinning. "Let's get out of here." The return trip through the labyrinth was no less dangerous, but now they had confidence. They had learned the patterns, anticipated movement, and trusted each other's instincts. Kieran marveled at humanity's ability to adapt, to improvise, and to rise to challenges that others would consider impossible. When they finally exited the asteroid field and returned to the Vorkari station, the council was waiting. The humans presented the artifact, and for the first time, the chamber was silent, not tense, but respectful. The eldest counselor approached, their voice musical and deliberate. "Nova," translated, "you humans are audacious. You do not follow the path laid before you. You create your own. That is remarkable." Kieran felt his chest swell with pride. He looked at Nova and Leah, realizing that this mission was more than just diplomacy. It was a statement. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and capable of extraordinary ingenuity. Nova stepped forward, meeting the counselor's gaze without fear. "We do what we must," she said simply. "We survive. We adapt. We are human." A ripple of murmurs ran through the chamber. The Vorkari regarded them with renewed curiosity. Humanity's reputation was changing, and the council seemed to recognize it. Later, as the humans returned to the Endeavor, Kieran reflected on the day. "That was incredible. I didn't think we'd make it." Nova laughed softly. "We did more than make it. We proved something. The Vorkari won't underestimate us again. Not today. Not ever." Leah nodded, eyes bright. "And this is just the start. Imagine what else humans can do when we really try." Kieran allowed himself a small smile. For the first time, in a long while, he felt that spark of true confidence. The Orion expanse was dangerous, full of unknowns, and full of challenges. But humans thrived on challenges. Humans survived because they adapted, They improvised. And they refused to give up. And with Nova leading the way, there was no obstacle too great, no puzzle too complex, and no enemy too clever for humanity to overcome. Kieran looked out at the stars, thinking of the future. The galaxy was vast, filled with civilizations that underestimated humans at every turn. They would learn eventually. Humans were not just another species in the universe. Humans were audacious, creative, and unstoppable. Nova walked beside him, her expression calm but determined. "Tomorrow," she said, "we face something new, something harder. But that's okay. Humans aren't meant to take the easy path. We take the path that challenges us, and we conquer it." Kieran nodded, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Humanity was in the Orion Expanse now, and they were making their mark. One test at a time. One impossible challenge at a time. Humans were showing the galaxy exactly what they were capable of. And that was only the beginning. The calm after the labyrinth's success was short-lived. The humans aboard the Endeavour had barely rested when a new alert flashed on the ship's control panel. "Lieutenant Arlo, you need to see this," Nova said, her voice unusually tight. She pointed to the main display, where multiple signals indicated unusual movement around the Vorkari orbital station. Kieran leaned over. "What is it?" "Another faction," Nova replied grimly. "Not Vorkari. They're unknown, aggressive, and fast-moving. They've intercepted our communication and are moving in to disrupt the peace negotiations." Leah swallowed hard. "They could destroy us before we even reach the council." Kieran's stomach tightened. Humanity had shown courage and skill so far. But this was different. This wasn't a test. This was an attack. Nova stepped closer. "Listen to me. They expect us to panic. They think humans are weak, easy to intimidate. That's why they're here. But they're wrong. Remember what we've done today, yesterday, and the days before. Humans adapt. Humans survive. And humans fight smart." Kieran nodded. Her confidence was contagious. "All right. Let's show them we're not easy prey." The unknown ships closed in quickly, sleek and angular, weapons glinting in the station's light. Kieran maneuvered the Endeavour, dodging the first volley of energy pulses. Leah worked the communications array, trying to find any weaknesses in the attacking fleet's coordination. "They're fast," Kieran said, gritting his teeth. "Too fast for standard maneuvers." Nova's eyes scanned the approaching ships. "Not too fast for strategy. Listen. They've grouped in pairs. They rely on speed, not thinking. We'll use that against them." Kieran raised an eyebrow. "And how do you suggest we do that?" Nova smiled, almost wickedly. "Humans don't just fight with strength. We fight with intelligence. Split the pairings, force them to act alone. Then we use the environment to our advantage." It was risky, but they had no choice. Kieran veered the Endeavour toward the massive gravity generators orbiting the station, drawing the enemy ships closer. The attackers followed, confident in their speed and firepower. "Now," Nova commanded. Leah activated the station's automated defense grids remotely, creating temporary electromagnetic fields that disrupted the attackers' navigation systems. Two enemy ships collided with small debris clouds, forcing them to separate. Kieran seized the opportunity, dodging between the remaining ships with precise maneuvers. Each time an enemy attempted to flank them, Nova called out angles and trajectories that used the station's gravity wells to create unpredictable motion. The attackers were smart, but humans were smarter. Hours passed in a tense dance of ships, gravity, and strategy. Kieran felt sweat prickling his brow, but he never let it show. Every command from Nova, every calculation from Leah, every daring maneuver from Kieran pushed the attackers back, forcing them into a corner. Then, One of the enemy ships broke formation and tried to ram the Endeavour. Kieran's instincts kicked in. He twisted the ship at the last possible moment, using the enemy's momentum against them. The ship spun past, colliding with a floating satellite array, which exploded in a shower of sparks. "Nice move," Nova said, eyes glinting. "That's human thinking again. Improvisation. Adaptation. Unexpected action. They hate it." The remaining enemy ships regrouped, forming a tight triangle. Kieran knew they could overwhelm him if he didn't act fast. He turned to Nova. "What now?" Nova's face was calm, almost serene. "We give them something they don't expect. Something no other species would do." She tapped on a holographic display, activating a series of automated drones disguised as debris. The drones glowed faintly and floated into the path of the enemy ships. Mistaking them for asteroids, the attackers adjusted their course, only to be trapped by the drones' magnetic fields. Kieran grinned. "Brilliant. Humans think outside the box." Leah laughed softly, her fear replaced by exhilaration. "We've never had aliens like this before. They don't know what's coming." With the attackers trapped temporarily, Kieran piloted the Endeavour into a high-speed loop around the station, using momentum and gravity to push the remaining ships into collisions with their own drones. Within moments, the enemy fleet was in disarray, retreating in confusion. The humans didn't give them a chance to recover. Using precise timing, they blocked escape paths, forcing the remaining ships to surrender or retreat entirely. For the first time in human history, a species that had underestimated humanity was forced to concede. As the attackers withdrew, Kieran exhaled deeply, the tension leaving his shoulders. Nova smiled, but there was no arrogance in her expression, only calm satisfaction. "They won't underestimate us again," she said quietly. Kieran nodded, looking at the Vorkari communication panels. The council had been watching everything. Nova translated their messages. "You, humans. Your audacity exceeds all expectation. You do not submit to fear, nor do you rely solely on force. You combine mind, body, and courage. That is unusual. That is respect-worthy. One. 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 One." Even Kieran had to admit, it felt good to hear. Humans were always underestimated, small, fragile, and seemingly primitive compared to advanced civilizations. Yet here they were, unbroken, victorious, and commanding attention. "Lieutenant Arlo," Nova said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "This is what I've been telling you. Humans aren't just brave. We're clever. We're adaptable. And when we refuse to back down, we become..." Kieran felt a surge of pride, tempered by awe. He thought of Earth, of humanity's history of survival against impossible odds, and realized something. This wasn't just luck or skill. Humans had an innate trait that no alien could fully predict: stubborn determination. The Vorkari Council called a special meeting after the retreat. For hours, they discussed, debated, and finally reached a decision. Nova translated as they spoke, their words deliberate and respectful. "You humans have proven more than courage. You have shown intelligence beyond your technology, creativity beyond your training, and a willingness to face danger without hesitation. That is worth acknowledgement." Kieran felt his heart swell. This was more than a victory in battle, it was a victory of spirit. Humanity had earned its place, not through raw power, but through ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to be intimidated. As the council's verdict was broadcast throughout the station, other alien species began to take notice. Ships from distant systems observed the humans with newfound curiosity. Kieran realized that this was the beginning of a shift in perception. Humanity was no longer a minor species to be dismissed, they were a force to be reckoned with. Back on the Endeavour, the team celebrated quietly. They didn't need cheers or fanfare. The satisfaction of surviving, succeeding, and proving themselves was enough. Nova turned to Kieran and Leah. "Remember this," she said softly. "It's not just about surviving. It's about showing the galaxy that humans are clever, bold, and fearless. That lesson is worth more than any artifact, any technology, or any treaty." Leah smiled, exhaustion lining her face but excitement shining in her eyes. "We did it. We really did it." Kieran looked out at the stars, thinking about the future. This was only one mission, one encounter, one victory. But it meant everything. Humanity had survived, adapted, and thrived in a situation designed to break them. And that was the essence of being human. Facing impossible odds, refusing to submit, and finding a way to succeed no matter what. Nova placed a hand on the console, her gaze distant. "Tomorrow," she said, "will be even harder. But I know we can do it. Humans don't back down. We rise." Kieran nodded, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The galaxy was full of unknowns, full of dangers, and full of civilizations that underestimated humanity. And every time someone doubted them, humans would rise to the occasion, adapt, and show what they were capable of. He smiled at Nova. And in that moment, Kieran realized something that no alien could ever fully understand. Humanity's strength wasn't in weapons, ships, or technology. It was in their audacity, their ingenuity, and the unshakable spirit that refused to yield. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and Kieran knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had faced its first real challenge in the Orion expanse, and had not only survived but thrived. The galaxy was watching now, and one thing was certain: humans were not to be underestimated. The calm after the confrontation with the unknown fleet felt almost unreal. The Endeavour floated in orbit above the Vorkari homeworld, its sleek hull reflecting the planet's pale blue glow. Inside the ship, Kieran, Arlo, Nova, and Leah leaned against consoles, their bodies tired but their spirits alive. Humanity had faced the impossible twice, and had survived, had adapted, and had triumphed. Yet Kieran knew this was only the beginning. The Orion expanse was vast, full of alien civilizations, political intrigue, and unexpected dangers. But for the first time, he felt a quiet confidence. Humanity had a place in this galaxy. Not a minor place, not a footnote, a place where they could shape events, where their ingenuity and audacity mattered. Nova walked slowly toward the viewport, her eyes tracing the distant stars. "Do you realize what we just did?" she asked quietly. Kieran shook his head. "We survived. That's what we did." Nova smiled faintly. "Yes, but more than that. We changed perception. The Vorkari, and everyone observing, saw humans act in ways no one expected. They saw courage, creativity, and intelligence combined with audacity. That's human. That's our strength." Leah leaned on the console, rubbing her temples. "I still can't believe the labyrinth, or the attack, or the way we turned everything around. It feels unreal." "It's real," Kieran said firmly, "and it proves something. Humans aren't just survivors. We're problem solvers. We improvise, we adapt, and we don't back down. That's what the galaxy will remember." 1. The Vorkari Council requested an immediate audience, and the humans were escorted once again into the grand chamber. 12 towering figures, shimmering with metallic hues, regarded them silently. The energy in the room was different this time. Not tense, not hostile, but filled with cautious respect. Nova stepped forward, translating the council's words. "You humans have faced the labyrinth and the challenge of your own design. You have confronted aggressors who sought to disrupt peace, and you have prevailed without dishonor or deceit. That is remarkable. Kieran felt a rare sense of pride. The Vorkari were ancient, experienced, and highly intelligent. For them to acknowledge human ability, audacity, and ingenuity was no small feat. One counselor, taller than the others, extended a long limb. "We offer you this," Nova translated, "as a symbol of respect. Humans are welcome to trade, learn, and operate openly in the Orion expanse. We do not make this offer lightly. Your actions have proven your species worthy." The humans accepted the gift, a small crystalline device that shimmered like the artifact they had retrieved from the labyrinth. It was not powerful, not dangerous, but it represented trust, acknowledgement, and a rare honor among alien civilizations. As the meeting ended, the counselors moved aside, allowing the humans to leave the chamber. Nova turned to Kieran and Leah, her eyes bright. "Do you feel it? Humanity is no longer underestimated here." Kieran nodded. "We've made allies. We've survived challenges they thought impossible. And we've shown what humans are capable of." Leah smiled. "And this is just the beginning. Other species will take note." Word spreads fast in the expanse. Over the next few days, the humans worked alongside the Vorkari to stabilize trade routes, share knowledge, and demonstrate human problem-solving in practical ways. Each interaction, each negotiation, was an opportunity to show that humanity was not weak, fragile, or naive. They were clever, resourceful, and bold traits that turned skeptics into reluctant allies. Kieran marveled at how quickly perception could change. In just a few weeks, humans went from being minor observers to recognized participants in interstellar politics. More importantly, they had done it without relying on sheer force, deceit, or trickery. It was their audacity, their willingness to confront challenges directly, and their creative approach that earned respect. One evening, Kieran and Nova stood on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. The expanse stretched endlessly before them, a vast network of civilizations, opportunities, and dangers. Kieran felt a mixture of awe and anticipation. "Do you think we can handle what's coming next?" he asked quietly. Nova smiled, a calm confidence shining in her eyes. "Kieran, humans can handle anything. We don't just survive. We rise. We improvise. We adapt. And when others doubt us, we prove them wrong every single time." Leah joined them, her expression tired but content. "It feels like the galaxy just got a little smaller, doesn't it?" "Smaller," Kieran agreed, "but more alive. Full of challenges. Full of things to test us. And we're ready." Word of humanity's success spread quickly. Alien traders, diplomats, and even observers from distant systems began arriving, curious to see these audacious humans. Rumors circulated of a species that didn't just follow rules, but created new ones, that didn't just survive threats, but turned them into opportunities. Kieran realized that this was the essence of HFY humanity, F. Yeah, it wasn't about superiority, conquest, or domination. It was about showing that humans could face the impossible, adapt, and thrive where others expected failure. In a meeting with a coalition of minor alien species, Nova translated Kieran's words. "We are humans," he said simply, "and we do not yield to fear or hesitation. When the universe presents challenges, we meet them. When others doubt us, we rise. That is who we are. That is humanity." The room was silent, the words sinking in. Slowly, nods of respect spread across the assembly. Kieran felt a quiet satisfaction. Humanity had earned its place not by force, not by arrogance, but by courage, intelligence, and unshakable determination. Days turned into weeks, and the humans continued to prove themselves. They solved logistical problems no alien could handle, repaired complex technology under impossible constraints, and even mediated disputes using insight and empathy that surpassed most alien protocols. Each success built reputation. Each challenge met, strengthened the bond between humans and the civilizations around them. One afternoon, as Kieran observed the Vorkari city from orbit, he reflected on everything that had happened. The labyrinth, the attack, the Council's acknowledgement each was a step in a larger journey. Humanity had shown that courage, creativity, and resilience were as powerful as weapons or technology. That was their true advantage. Nova appeared beside him, eyes on the horizon. "The galaxy is full of challenges," she said softly. "But it's also full of opportunities. Humans will face both, and we will rise to them. Always." Kieran smiled. "Always. I think this is the start of something bigger. Something lasting." Nova nodded. "Yes. One day, humans will not just survive in the galaxy. We will thrive. And when others doubt us, when they think we are fragile or weak, we will prove them wrong." Leah joined them, her smile wide. "I think they already have. In ways they didn't expect." Kieran looked out at the stars, the vast expanse stretching endlessly. Humanity had begun as a small, fragile species on a tiny blue planet. Now, in the Orion expanse, they were recognized, respected, and feared not for conquest, but for audacity, ingenuity, and resilience. He realized something important. Humans were more than technology, more than numbers, more than training. Humans were audacious, adaptable, clever, and unyielding. And that was enough to make the galaxy take notice. As the sun dipped below the horizon of the Vorkari world, casting a golden glow across the space station, Kieran, Nova, and Leah stood together, looking out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of unknowns. But humans had shown what they could do when they refused to be underestimated. When they faced challenges with courage, and when they acted with creativity and intelligence. And humanity's mark on the Orion expanse and the galaxy beyond had only just begun. Nova turned to them, eyes shining with determination. "The future is ours to shape," she said softly. "And humans, we always rise." Kieran, feeling a mix of exhaustion, pride, and exhilaration, nodded. "Then let's make sure the galaxy knows exactly who we are." For humanity, this was not the end. It was the beginning of a new era, one where they would meet every challenge, seize every opportunity, and show the universe what it meant to be human. And in the silent vastness of space, humanity's audacity, ingenuity, and courage shone brighter than any star.